Hi everyone, Tracy DW here. Where is the richest place on earth? Is it a luxury island in the Pacific or the Caribbean? Maybe it is the gold, diamond and mineral mines across the African continent. Alternatively, could it be the high-tech, high-speed cities of the Far East? There is a saying that the richest place on earth is, in fact, the graveyard. Why the graveyard? Because it is the one place where an infinite wealth of unfulfilled dreams and unrealized potential are laid to rest with the remains of those who have passed on. This is a saying that many of us may have been told at some point in our lives. Throughout history, millions have lost their lives because of war. Whether they are innocent or guilty, victims or perpetrators, war undermines all that is gloriously humane about us, exposing the full spectrum of human nature through its darker tones to its brighter hues. While war often inspires us to show countless acts of courage, bravery, resilience, camaraderie and unity, it also robs us of our identity, dignity, values, self-worth and ultimately our place in this world. This demonstrates that war creates a graveyard for the living as well as the dead, where dreams and potential have died through the limited choices and opportunities that present themselves in the aftermath of war. This graveyard is not only where adults, but also children are found, whether they are civilians or have been drafted into the military. When I saw the arrest, detention and trial of the Russian soldier Vladimir Shishimari, I was inspired to focus on children in the military for this podcast episode. At the age of 21, Vladimir Shishimari is legally an adult, but as I took a closer look at his face, I said to myself, he's just a boy. I could only see all the unfulfilled dreams and unrealized potential in this young person's life. I began to think about the countless children and youth who, throughout history and particularly at this time, are caught up, trapped and entrapped into circumstances beyond their free will, autonomy and decision making, and whose lives have been reduced to nothing more than body counts. With this sobering thought, my heart sank. As I took a closer look at the face of this young soldier, I took a moment to ask myself some questions in order to try to build a picture of him, not as a criminal, but as a human being. Where was he born? Who were his parents? Does he have any siblings? Where did he go to school? What was his favourite subject and what did he struggle with? Was he ever bullied and how did that make him feel? Did he have any allergies? Can he play an instrument? Who is his favourite author or rock group? Where has he travelled to? Is he good at sport? Where was his favourite place to hang out? What were his hobbies and interests? What were his plans for his future? And what were his aspirations and expectations for his life? More importantly, how did circumstances lead him to this point in his life to be placed in this situation? I have often asked myself these same questions in relation to Shamima Begum, the student who left Britain in 2015 with two other student friends to join the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant in Syria. However, in the case of Shamima and any mitigating factors in her defence, public opinion is still divided about what should be her fate. I asked these questions from the perspective of an educationalist and a school leader who sees it as second nature to be ambitious for our children and to have only the highest expectations for their well-being, social, moral and spiritual development, as well as their academic achievement. The aftermath of the pandemic has brought my school into a revisionary phase and we are on our own learning journey. I have spent the last couple of months involved with rewriting our history and geography curriculum and reviewing the overall quality of provision across the school for these two subjects. It was only just a week ago that I had the privilege for the fourth time to take a group of our pupils on another international residential to visit our partner school in Madrid. This gave many of those 17 pupils the opportunity to have experiences that they may not have had under any other circumstances. Seeing Shishimari as an example of a man-child made me reflect on the rationale for using children and young people in war and justification of their involvement in the military. Why would children be targeted and under what circumstances? A warrior role may be perceived by many children as a rite of passage to maturity, but it exposes the underdeveloped body to chronic depression, PTSD, poor literacy and numeracy skills, and heightens the risk of suicide. It also exposes young, impressionable minds to high levels of stress and trauma, where automatic compliance is indoctrinated and expected. Warfare certainly thrusts the human being into a situation where fight is the be-all and end-all and flight is not an option. Since the times of antiquity, children have been active in warfare, either through coercion or through willing participation. Their reasons for entering the military are varied, such as escaping poverty, or to escape hardship, or to avoid loneliness and isolation. Children from as young as 8 years old participated in World War One as they were caught up in a wave of patriotism. Some as young as 15 fought in the trenches. However, despite their capacity to display a maturity beyond their years, children will be children. Vulnerable, prone to pranks, unable to calculate the bravity of situations or the consequences of their actions. It has always been a precarious affair, trying to hold children to adult standards and expectations. World War II was characterised more strongly by the systematic indoctrination of children and their use as vehicles to promote propaganda by all factions and all sides of the war. Having no legal definition of what a child was, and therefore no way of verifying their age, enabled the easy recruitment of children onto the front lines. Though Africa has experienced its own fair share of decades of civil war in countries such as Eritrea, Ethiopia, Liberia, Sierra Leone and Uganda, acts of atrocities have often been countered with humanitarian efforts to emancipate and rehabilitate children back into society. The nation of Burundi is one example where many children participated in a regeneration program organised by the UNICEF. These programs provided support which enabled thousands of children to escape the living graveyard of the aftermath of warfare and regain their lost innocence with opportunities for working the land, going back to school, and even gaining training for the skills to use in other fields of work. Conflicts in the Middle East, such as the Iran-Iraq War 1980 to 1988, saw tens of thousands of children as young as 14 forcibly recruited to serve on both sides. In a context where leadership did not recognise the need for parental consent and justified military service as a form of religious obligation, many were subjected to harsh, prolonged training, acted as suicide martyrs, and participated in direct combat, such as part of human wave tactics. In Asia, children were regularly conscripted to commit acts of murder and other atrocities in places such as Sri Lanka and Cambodia in civil wars during the 1970s and through the decades leading into this century. Such acts have resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of lives. And what about Britain? The Royal Navy has been known to recruit children from as young as 13 years of age, but from 15 years in more recent times. Under 18-year-olds were sent to fight in both Gulf and Falkland Wars, as well as deployed as UN peacekeepers by NATO during the war in Yugoslavia in the 1990s. Children were also recruited by both factions during the Troubles in Northern Ireland from the 1960s to 1998, until the signing of the Good Friday Agreement brought relative peace through negotiations. Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Do you feel like you're stuck in a dinner rut? With HelloFresh, you get fresh pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip all those trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less. With over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there is something for everyone to enjoy. All recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. There's a selection for families, as well as quick and easy meals to suit a busy lifestyle. Or why not try our premium selection for those special occasions? Even if you're counting the calories, there's a selection of meat and vegetarian options to suit every taste, along with a great selection of desserts, sides, and wines. Just go to the link in our show notes to get 50% off your first box and then 35% off your next 3 boxes. That's the link in our show notes for 50% off your first box and then 35% off your next 3 boxes. It's HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit. So what is in place to protect children from being exploited and limit their conscription into the military? The Convention of the Rights of the Child, also adopted by the UN Assembly, sets out the political, economic, social and cultural rights of children. Established by the United Nations, it came into effect in 1990. Nations who sign up and ratify the treaty are required to report to and appear before the UN Committee to be examined on their progress of implementing the Convention in their country. Britain ratified the Convention in December 1991 and presented its first report in January 1995. Concerns raised by the committee were violence towards children, their welfare while in custody, child poverty and its negative impact, and their unequal treatment as asylum seekers. In 2008, Britain made the decision to agree to the convention in working to address these aspects. Also, OPAC, the optional protocol of the involvement of children in armed conflict, was a treaty formed in New York 2000, which was a follow-up from the previous protocol from the Geneva Convention in 1949 and formally adopted internationally in 1977. The treaty, signed by over 170 countries, outlines three principles: prohibition of the conscription of children into the military, ensuring that recruits to the military are no younger than 16, and the prevention of recruits of 16 to 17 years of age taking part in active combat. As recent as over the last decade, several countries are still deploying child soldiers, but more countries are committing to OPAC to raise the age of participation in warfare from 15 to 18. However, in the UK, as of 2018, enlisting begins from the age of 16, with a quarter of recruits actually being under the age of 18. Children in the military is part of the wider picture of yet another uncomfortable truth, that of child abuse and exploitation. We all have a vested interest to safeguard the welfare and well-being of our children. They are our future and an embodiment of the hope that they will not only inherit the earth, but make it a better place. When we continue to take from the future to satisfy the present, the loss of childhood, innocence, and life prospects mounts up into an ever-increasing debt which all of us around the world bear the brunt of and reap the consequences of every day. And in all cases, this debt can never be repaid or compensated for. If you liked this podcast, then you can listen to my other podcast episodes related to this one, such as From a Whisper to a Scream, Canada's Secret History, and more recently, Whose War Is It Anyway? Finally, don't forget what I call the heart and soul of the Stories to be Told movement: my stories, or poetic narratives, Caribbean Wind, Caribbean Rush, Knights at the Round Table, the Berlin Conference 1884, and Gone with the Wind, Macmillan's Speech for Change, are all available on the website in both ebook, Kindle and paperback formats. And also, I look forward to the publication of 4 new titles this summer. If you want to find out more, just visit the website storiestobetold.com and check out the learning platforms for The Journey's End, Giving Back Hong Kong, Bite from the Big Apple, A Story for New York, Hope for Zimbabwe, Arise the Phoenix, and A Story for South Africa. I'd like to say a huge congratulations to Helen, who is my winner for the month of June. Helen, a copy of Aspiring Authors is on its way to you. And don't forget to enter the draw for a free copy of Aspiring Authors magazine for Black History 2022 if you want to be in with a chance of being my winner for the month of July. Just visit the website and register for your free samples of my current 4 titles to enter the draw, and I'll be choosing a winner every month up to and including October. Feel free to like, follow and share us on social media when you visit the website. Just click on to whichever social media link you'd like to follow us on. And as always, it is a pleasure and a privilege to share my learning journey with you in this podcast series, and I encourage you to either begin or continue your own. History is a matter of fact or perspective. I'm Tracy DW, and this is a Stories to be Told podcast. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, enjoy the sunshine wherever you are. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next page.